Hello there, and thank you for joining us on this special series of the 30 years of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. In this show, we continue to profile or bring you reflections from some of the notable individuals that played a critical role in the making of the 1995 Constitution. My name is Judith Atim, and thank you for joining us. Do follow us on our different social media platforms, but also subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel that is, if you haven't already, and do leave us a comment so that you're part of this conversation. Today with me in the studio, I am really honored and excited to be hosting one of the most vocal female politicians that we have had in this country, that is Honorable Tezira Jamwa, who was very instrumental in the making of this constitution. She was one of the members of the Constituent Assembly back in the 1990s. Honorable, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here on your program today. Maybe let me again introduce myself. I'm Tezira Jamwa. I come from Tororo district. I was one of the delegates in the Constituent Assembly. I represented Tororo district in the assembly. I also worked as a resident district commissioner in various districts in this country. I was also a member of parliament in the 6th parliament. The parliament we call up to today the parliament.
So what are you doing these days?
Right
you seem
now,
to be quite busy.
I'm retired, but not tired. I've been very busy in the NGO world. First of all, I'm a founder member of Forum for Women and Democracy. I was on the second chairperson of that organ of the board. Then later on, I was a member of the board, Forum for Women and Democracy. But I was also chairperson, served 2 terms at the Uganda Women Network, WONET. Then I've been busy in church matters, community, participating in the communities. I thought in my early years I was very busy in politics, so now I'm trying to give back to the community by participating in them, in their projects.
That is
what I do.
We're glad to have you. Yes. So the first part of our discussion will focus on the Constituent Assembly and the 1995 Constitution. And I'd like you to share with us your personal reflections and your experience as a delegate to the CA back in 1994. What are some of the things that motivated you, first of all, as an individual and collectively as an assembly? And what did you hope to achieve at that time as the CA?
Thank you very much. Now, when the conversation of having a Constituent Assembly started, we were wondering what it was going to be, what it meant. But then we started participating when the commission, the Uganda Commission started moving around. We were collected in Tororo. They sought for our views on the new document which was going to be written for the country. Then we said, some of us were not lawyers, were wondering how we were going to participate effectively. So we started hearing that conversation of the ad hoc commission. Then after that, they said there are going to be elections. And by that time, we were governed under the RSC system at the local government.
That's the Resistance Council.
Yes, so I was Secretary for Education and Mobilization at Tororo Municipality. Then, I never even dreamt of participating in the Constituent Assembly. But somebody came and told me, this is something for you, Tezira. You go contest and go to where? To the Constituent Assembly in Kampala. You can do it. I said, but you're just telling me now what I don't know what to do. So that is how it started. So I also started moving around, and for us during that time, there was no issue of money. It was about people's goodwill, and they were able also to judge. We were only 2 women who contested in my district, and the voters were the electoral college. And I not only defeated her by 40 votes, I got 990 votes. She got 950. But still I made it to the Constituent Assembly. And now for us, the women delegates after the elections, because the men were the first to be elected on 28th March 1994. And the women were elected on 29th April 1994. So for us, we were invited a week earlier by the clerk to Parliament. That was Honor Mr. Tandikwire. He invited us and we were booked into Equatorial Hotel. We were invited to attend a seminar. I don't know why they targeted just the women, but to us that was very good, because some of us were brought into national politics.
From local politics, yes.
From local politics, we didn't know what to do. So there they were talking about doctoral. They were saying, you're not a public figure, you behave differently, you do what, you talk differently. Don't bring shame to the assembly, things like that. They were sort of talking to us, but we also were happy. We were coming, who had never been in national politics, and were coming from up country. We found there mentors. Honorable Rhoda Kalema, may God rest her soul in peace. Honorable Victoria Sectoreko, and Janet Mukwaya. They put us in the room and they trained us, they told us how to carry ourselves, how to dress. They were teaching us. So that 1 week was very productive for us. So we started gaining confidence. So that is how we started. Then after a week, the assembly was opened by the president on 18th May 1994 at the Constituent Assembly was sitting at
Serena.
By then it was called Kampala International Conference Center.
Yeah.
So our parliament was in the Victoria Room, and for us they arranged in such a way that we sit according to alphabetical order. I was number 63. So now when things started, for us we didn't know what to do now, but quickly the president of now, Madam Peter Mazire, opened an office for us to help us do research, to help us, go and debate and look at the various articles which affected us as the women, so that they can bring professionals to talk about it. We talk with them before going to the plenary in the Constituent Assembly. So we had that office. It was very fully furnished. We had a computer, chairs and tables. And then the other women rights organization also came, like UONET. They came to support the women. Everybody was just pampering us, the women, with the knowledge, with what, at the expense of the male delegates. So we're very happy. Through that we gained confidence. Then we started even strategizing. We wanted our voices to be captured in the 1995 Constitution, but how would we go about it? So what we did was, because our number were only 51 women, 39 came, they represented districts, I was one of them, then 9 competed directly, and one of those was Rhoda Kalema, Janet Mukwaya, Winnie Byanyima, and others. Then one was nominated by the president. So we were 51 in number, and we felt that if we wanted our voices to be captured, we had to strategize in such a way that we boost our number. Because first of all, in that draft constitution, there was an article on affirmative action. But then even us participating, it was difficult. But the women, those who were in the NRC, because they wanted only 15 women throughout Uganda to participate in the Constituent Assembly. So they put down their feet and the NRC passed that let every district be represented in the Constituent. So that is what happened. So we participated, as I told you, we were only 51, but then we say, we are not the only one marginalized, there are other groups. So we sought for allies. we looked for the youths, we looked for the workers, we looked for people with a disability. And then we said, still our number is about 60 something. But we need also, when we go in our office, to strategize in such a way that we also identify male sense, those men who are gender sensitive to come. So at the end of the day, we were 74. But we made a lot of changes, or we influenced, we were able to do that. And then for us also, debate in the plenary was not even, okay, we were few in numbers, and picking a woman would really take something for a woman to be recognized. So we would target those vocal Constituent Assembly men, like the late Agre Awori, those who are gender sensitive. So is one of them. We looked up to Ben Watcher. They would listen and they would put forward our issues. So we would get support. And that is how we managed to at least have 40 gender sensitive articles included in the 1995 Constitution. So that is how we were participating, the strategies we use to be recognized. But still, when we were there, we sought for further training, in speaking, being assertive. How do you go about it without being judged that you are aggressive? So we did all sorts of training, and then there was goodwill out there for us, the women delegates. First of all, we had somebody who was connected in the diplomatic world. That was Honorable Winnie Anyima. She was a diplomat herself, because she even came late in the Constituent Assembly. So we were lucky. She would talk to various embassies, and they would organize trainings for us. In fact, most of us went to Beijing, China, to attend the UN Fourth World Conference on Women. So there was goodwill up there. By the time we were in the middle, we had now gained confidence. We were able also to stand up and speak for our for ourselves as women. We didn't want others to participate for us, and that is why we came up with all those different strategies in order to be able to capture those articles which directly affect women, like Article 32, that is affirmative action. We had from Article 30 to 36 were all about women, concerning women. Education was free for all, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman. Employment would all be at par regarding employment. So those are some of the gender articles I can talk about it. And even in the 1995 Constitution, we put there that there shall be Equal Opportunities Commission, which was put in place. I think the law came in place in 2006 when Honorable Saida Bumba was the Minister of Gender.
So I want us to talk briefly about the core principles of the 1995 Constitution. From the time the CA debated, contributed and promulgated and had the Constitution passed, and for the years thereafter, it was praised as a largely progressive document. But when you look at especially in the core principles of human rights and democracy and things like that, what do you think were some of the most significant principles that the Constituent Assembly embedded?
I think when you read chapter 4, that is about the national principles of this country, which were captured in that chapter. I can't recall of it, but those principles are captured in chapter 4. But briefly, we have freedom of the articles on freedom of a person. There are articles on freedom to participate, to associate, and then we have articles on registration of birth, which was not there. We had that one. With death and birth, those ones were put there. And then equality before the law, all of us. That equality principle, I think, is also in chapter 4. where you are not discriminated against as an individual. So those principles were captured there. Freedom to participate, to associate, freedom of an individual, all those things were included in that constitution. And in fact, after the promulgation of the constitution, Uganda's constitution, I think, was the most gender sensitive on the continent of Africa, and they invited us to go out various countries. Like because for us, the women delegates were organized under the Women Caucus. So everybody sought our help, our training. We went to Tanzania, Kenya, India. We went there and participated. People wanted to know how did we achieve that. And in fact, when we were making that constitution, there was very strong political will out there from government in particular. We had gone through rough time as a country. We had just come out of tyranny. So we thought when the NRM came with that goodwill, and there was that political will, and when actually the government decided that we have a new constitution. In fact, the 1995 constitution was the fourth constitution. I think we had the 1962 independence constitution, which was made for us at Lancaster House, where even women never participated. Then we had the Republic Constitution, the one of 1967, but there was one of 1966, which was called a pigeonhole constitution. Then we had, so because there was goodwill out there, even if people were happy, because that sort of for their input, their voices were captured in the commission, that big book of the Odoke report. So people really were looking forward to a good governance for the country, good democracy. They thought democracy was going to be brought back through that constitution. So that is what we had for us.
So do you have any recollections of how perhaps certain difficult discussions or contentious issues were handled at the time, and how you managed as an assembly to reach compromise?
Okay, first of all, I remember there was an article on citizenship. They really debated on it. It is a sensitive matter, but eventually were able to go around it and found out and put it in the constitution regarding citizenship. That is one of those which were very difficult. Then there was this article on property ownership. I remember we had organized ourselves with the Women Caucus group. We organized ourselves, and we actually invited the president as the guest of honor. We wanted him to give us support to discuss that particular article. But then, to our surprise, the president didn't give us support. He said, "You can't find me with my properties, and then we share with you equally," actually. So that article never even appeared in the constitution. So when it came to the one of affirmative action, everybody supported it because we had mobilized the delegates. And then what also helped us, the chairman of the Constituent Assembly, the late Honorable James Wapakabulo Wambogo, was very gender sensitive. And then the his deputy was Professor Victoria Mwaka. So there was also goodwill within the Constituent Assembly. It would help us out to go out about those difficult or sensitive articles during the debate or before the debate. Would really go, because we had committees. There were working committees also. But I think there was a standing committee, the one of legal, and the vice chairperson of that one was the Honorable Hope Mwesige. She was the vice chairperson of that. So there was goodwill there. There was a lot of training, and we I want to appreciate the late Justice Kanyehamba, who passed on this recently. He really was, he knew everything to do with constitutionalism. We read his papers. There were symposiums organized by him, and other speakers were brought outside the country to come and talk about constitutionalism, especially in Uganda. Again, there's Sempewa. I think he's a lawyer by profession, he's a professor. He was very good. He would really explain to us how to go about, how to debate. We had several seminars, to make us participate effectively, especially we, the women, to enable us have our voices captured. We didn't want the men to decide for us, as they were doing before. But we got that opportunity because the political environment then was very embracive, and we all accepted. We said, because when the NRM captured the government, first we operated under the movement political system, and everything was done on individual merit. You would go out and campaign together. But then, that is when we made that constitution, when we were still under the political movement political system. We were under it for 20 years, and things seemed to be moving very well.
So, looking at the time, the 90s, there was some relative stability coming into the country after so many years of political instability, right, from the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. So ultimately, when you sat down as the CA, to what extent do you think some of this political history or the baggage from the past, whether it's political or social, to what extent do you think it impacted or influenced the decisions or the content of the Constitution at the time you were making it?
Okay, for us, when we were making the Constitution, okay, we had a rough, turbulent past, tyranny, rule of tyranny and things. But we wanted to forget it. We wanted to start a new chapter. We wanted to see, okay, looking at the past, and then where we wanted to be. So we wanted a document that will bring in things like good governance, which we had not experienced for so many years, having had so many coups and everything. So, and then even the government, expressed willingness to move together with the citizens of Uganda through a new era of a new democracy. That is how we looked at it. So we based it. We were just saying we don't want any more turbulence in this country. We must come up with a very strong supreme law that would govern. They will be used to govern this country. That is the sort of things we had in our mind.
So there was hope. The aspiration was for a better Uganda. So when you look now over the past 3 decades or so that we've had the Constitution, do you think some of these principles or these aspirations have been upheld? Do you think perhaps there has been some erosion of our Constitution and the values somewhere? And also looking at the amendments that happened over the years, what, in your opinion, were the most significant amendments that we've had in the 30 years that since the Constitution came to effect?
In the 6th Parliament, the people who constituted that parliament, nearly 3/4 of them, had been the delegates in the Constituent Assembly. So when we were in the the 6th Parliament, we wanted to nurture that Constitution and nurture it to maturity. So we wanted to give it at least 10 years to see how the document would safeguard the principles that we had put in it, especially one of them, term limits and age limit. We had put there principles that would really make Uganda be a truly democratic country. So when we went back for re-election after the sixth parliament, most of us who were the delegates first, and then there were members of parliament in the sixth parliament, we never came back. Now, in 2005, there was a referendum that was held to bring in multi-party politics in Uganda, because the constitution says Uganda can be governed under movement political system or multi-party political system or any other. So when we had that referendum, Ugandans said, okay, we can now go into multi-party politics because we have been under movement political system for 20 years. Now, when we were under movement, everything was done on individual merit. But then, when we went into politics, and then before I even talk about that, for 20 years, political party system was being demonized. Was being demonized by government, with powers that will be, that political parties are not good for us. Then again, people are told, let's go in the referendum and see what we want. People said, okay, let's go back to political system. Maybe things will be better.
A multi-party system.
Multi-party political system. Maybe things will be better. And even when, after the referendum, when the multi-party political system started operating, after election in the referendum, people were not mentored into how political parties work. People didn't know, because for 20 years, even those voters were born within those 20 years, didn't know how multi-party system worked. But we just fell into it, boom, without training, without being said, without being nurtured into it, to embrace it properly. So elections started taking place, and now, during the movement political system, when we would go out to campaign, we would campaign together in a group. Then the people would decide who to vote for. And our politics under movement was issue-based. Not money. There was no money in movement political system. So when multi-party politics came, then in the 7th parliament, most of them were first-timers, because they replaced us, were first-timers. And that is when the constitution we had nurtured for those 5 years, when the 6th parliament was really brought down by amending the term, opening the term limit, something that all of us were against. So that one was brought in. Yeah, once that article was touched, so the amendment of the constitution became very easy. So I don't even, in fact, I feel like crying. I don't want to talk about it.
So
that is the experience.
So in a previous interview I held with one of your former colleagues in the CA, Captain Francis Babu, he actually also shared his views about the amendment. But in his thinking, he said, when the Constituent Assembly sat and included the clause on amendment, I think it's chapter 12 or clause 12, I'm not sure, but the clause on amendment in the Constitution.
Yes.
What was the spirit? What was your thinking as an assembly at that time to include?
That time, we just said, let it be there, because we had also benchmarked on other constitutions, and it was there. And little did we know that people would abuse it, use it to touch our baby, who had not matured. Just 5 years and the constitution was amended. So we did it in good faith. We didn't say over what somebody told us, but because we had benchmarked with other constitutions, those kind of
provisions were there.
Are always put there. Because the world changes. There can always be need for change. But this one was too quick to touch the constitution. After only 5 years, we were still nurturing it to grow, to study the test of time, which it never did. So,
Do you think if the assembly were to go back, all of you, the delegates, if you were to go back 30 years in time, what would you have done differently on the clause of amendment? Looking at everything that has happened in the last 30 years.
now we are in a democracy. We also, as I told you, we benchmark other constitutions. Where that clause, I'm sure it will still remain there. But maybe we could make it strong and put conditions that this one must not be done like this. We would make it stronger. We would make it stronger in order to protect the constitution of this country. Yeah.
Okay. So when you look at these controversial amendments that happened in the 7th Parliament and beyond, the amendment on the term limits and the subsequent amendment on the age limit, the removal, how do you think these two significant amendments have altered the course, the trajectory of democracy or democratic governance in Uganda?
I think it has brought it down, eroded all those strong principles that we put in the constitution. I can't say much. I can't see what is happening.
So if the clause on amendment had been stronger, you think we wouldn't have had sensitive amendments like on the age limit and term limits actually touched?
Yes, actually, that is maybe the mistake we made, the Constituent Assembly delegates. We didn't make those, we didn't put conditions. We just wrote age limit of this, term limit 2 years, but we didn't put, maybe if we had expounded on them, things maybe would look different. But that is the kind of democracy now we have. Unless if they call all the delegates to come and again work on the new constitution. But that is something that is impossible.
Let's talk about separation of powers, which is also one of the things that...
Actually, that one, as the checks and balances, for us, we observed separation of powers. 6th Parliament observed it to the letter, where Parliament worked independently, executive, and because Parliament checks these two, we tried that. We tried our level best. But over the years now, since 1995, nearly 30 years, things have changed.
What do you think has really gone wrong when it comes to separation of powers? Why are these three arms not able to fully execute their mandate independently?
For me, I've seen over the years, maybe because now even the delegates, the quality of, members of Parliament, keeps changing every 5 years. We have now people who are in their 30s, young people, who may not even know where we came from, and who may not even understand why that constitution was made. So these changes have also affected the constitution negatively, because now you just see already, we are going to amend this. Parliament is just doing things haphazardly. They're not doing what took them to Parliament, to ensure that they make laws that will help, would boost governance of this country, to ensure that we stand as three arms of government and work independently. That one has failed. To me, Parliament now looks as if it is fused with the executive. Now I don't know where the judiciary is also. The way things are happening is a bit very sad.
Does it worry you?
It does.
Why does it concern you? Like, what would be the implications of this kind of fusion of roles and the lack of independence of these institutions?
We are not doing any service to the citizens of this country by fusing these three arms of government together, because Parliament is there to to deliberate on the needs of the citizens. And they have to check sometimes the excesses of these two arms, either the executive and the judiciary. So Parliament surely should be independent and observe the principle of separation of powers. But that one doesn't seem to be working.
Well then, so because you're talking about having a crop of leaders, elected leaders, who do not seem to appreciate how far we've come as a country. But do you think the problem is in the age, or perhaps it lies elsewhere? For instance, maybe there's a lack of civic education, so people go into leadership without...
Also is there. You see what has changed the quality of members of parliament. The politics has now been commercialized. It is the highest bidder. Because a person like me, I can't go back to contest in my former constituency, West Budama North constituency, without money. People are bought. People are selling their conscience to the candidates. You see, that is why we end up with the poor quality of members of parliament. People just go there, they have made politics to become a job. They go there to work, to earn money. And that is why politics in Uganda today has become a do-or-die thing. So, this commercialization, and we don't have anything protecting, or even the electoral commission should have been doing a lot of civic education. They don't do it. Instead, they do voter education at the last minute. Things are not done in preparation of a long-term activity. Things are just done haphazardly. So many things have changed.
Well, so you talk about the issue of money in politics. Of course, that has become a very big problem. If you were to go to your constituency to seek re-election, ideally, how much money would you need?
I just hear stories. People spend billions and millions. At least a minimum of 750 and above. I've heard even in those conferences in Toronto, I've heard how much people are saying they used what. So, and you see, now recently we had nomination of the presidential candidates. But there are women are here, there were over 30 who picked the papers, but they couldn't come back.
No.
They couldn't come back because they can't cope with in this commercialized politics. We can't cope. We can't participate. Instead, others are participating us.
So let's also look at the role of the citizen, because yes, the politician comes and throws money at the citizens. But should that in itself be a strong reason for citizens to still vote individuals who cannot deliver, who do not have substance, but they just have the money?
The citizens have changed. People of my generation are no longer there. And then because there's so much poverty. Okay, I'll give an example. Recently, I offered myself to contest for National Treasurer for Women, NRM Women League. But when I went out there, the demand was just too high.
Financial demand.
Yes. I said I can't finish my savings for this. I just stopped on the way and just kept it quiet. My supporters would call me, oh, where are you, Tezira? Where are you? No, I said no. I'm here, I'm coming, I'm on my way. So I just phased out like that. So, and then also when people of our generation under the movement, we were talking about issues, things that would improve on the health of the citizens, talk about education, good education, quality education. But now when people go for campaign, they don't talk. They only collect people and they do what? And give them money and they go away. So that is the attitude the voters are also have adopted. They just go for money and they walk away. they would say, like in Dabadala, I thought that the one who gives,
Is the
okay,
one.
the highest bidder is the one I will vote for.
Do you think citizens actually understand the implication of trading their votes for
They
money?
don't, because there is no civic education being done. Even NGOs are also not able to do it effectively because of funds. And then there you can see how you said used to support women rights organization to do all these things. Water monitoring, what, civic education, they are also incapacitated. They can't manage. So, I don't know.
But many years ago, civic education was part of the national curriculum. Do you think having it back, whether it was political education or civics or whatever it was called, do you think having it back in the curriculum could actually have helped Ugandans to be, to actually understand what their civic duties are?
Maybe that would help, because we used to do civic education, and we used to do, what did you call it?
Political education.
Political education. We used to do all those things. But all those things have been phased away. As I've been aging, I saw all those went away. But for us, when we were there, we had civic education, we had political education, we would do PTE, PT, physical training. Those things are missing in schools. And the schools, they have only a compound as big as the studio. For us, we used to go to the stadium. We had a pitch, football pitch, where we would do this physical training. So many things are not being done. Now for us, we would also, they would teach us religious education, very deep, serious one. But these days they're doing CRE, I don't even know what the content of that subject. So many things have been dropped along the way. I don't know whether those things, if they reawaken them, can now work. We didn't have machines like phones, computers, we didn't have calculators. They were saying mental work, we need mental work. We used to use our head to think. But now people are using machines, even machines are taking care of children, they're parenting children. I don't think if they bring those things we used to go through, they can work. Because generations have changed also.
So let's talk about civic education again and political education, bringing it back in the curriculum. Do you think removing them from the curriculum was also perhaps a deliberate thing, well-calculated scheme by the powers that be to perhaps have a citizenry that is...
I talk on that subject because I don't have evidence. You know, being a journalist, you talk based on evidence. That one I don't know. But I don't know what happened, why those things were dropped along the way.
But you're seeing the effects of not having it.
Yes, and I hope even those who are in government are seeing, so I don't know.
Okay.
And you see those things, the people who would be talking about it would be the members of parliament. But these days I don't even know what debate is taking place in parliament. People would be talking that the voices of the wananchi, of the citizens, they would be demanding for good services, service delivery. But the MPs, because somebody buys to go to parliament, you think they can go back and organize rallies to talk about what is transpiring in parliament and how it is affecting them? They can't.
So you in your assessment, things began to go south after the 6th Parliament, after your lot. Okay, so when we start seeing all these mistakes. If you're to look at where we are right now, say from the 10th, 11th Parliament, what would be your assessment of the institution when it comes to safeguarding or upholding the Constitution?
I think it's about a 10%. That is the percentage I'll give them. Yeah.
How would you justify that?
Because first of all, I think the MPs are no longer interested in the interest of the people they represent. I mean, that is what I'm saying. They don't talk for them. They don't. Now, this issue of fusing parliament and executive, the judiciary is also on its own there. So that one is also affecting our people. And that is what we are seeing happening. It is as if the MPs have that attitude of I don't care attitude. It is now individual. People just think about themselves, not about the masses.
Okay. So when you look at some of the contentious pieces of legislation that have been passed, let's give the case of the 11th Parliament, the trial of civilians in military courts, the UPDF Amendment Act, and also the amendment on the political parties and organizations. What are your views on these kinds of amendments?
I think the court, is it the Supreme Court, made a ruling, and even from time to time, the Chief Justice talks about it, that no civilian should be tried in a military court. That is a constitutional matter, if the Chief Justice has passed it. But you see, I can't, those are
separation of powers.
Separation of powers. I feel depressed to see how things are going wrong, so I can't say much on that one.
Okay, so let's look at the future. What would be your hope? What would be your aspirations in as far as constitutionalism and the defense and upholding of the Constitution is concerned?
I think let's put this country in prayer. We need to put the country in prayer so that in the future, maybe if there is change of leadership, things will be maybe different also, or they will be for better.
Yeah, but as citizens pray, as Ugandans pray, don't they have to take action? I mean, even the Bible itself says faith without action is meaningless.
We are on our knees all the time.
Beyond being on our knees, we also have to do something, don't you think?
Like what? You want us to go on the streets?
No. There has to be, it doesn't have to be going to the streets and demonstrating alone. Don't you think there are other ways that perhaps we can engage, whether it's dialogue, whether it's any other form of engagement?
If the NGOs had powers, they would go out and talk to the communities and sensitize them about what should be good for them. Maybe because when I look at Parliament itself is not doing anything. We need other stakeholders to come in to help the citizens, to help us who are outside Parliament.
So looking at the political and governance challenges that we have today in this country, what lessons do you think we can pick from your generation, from the 1995 Constituent Assembly, 1994? What lessons can we pick from the past that you think could be applied to address some of the governance and political challenges that are affecting us today?
You see, for us in 1994-95, the majority of people who came into that assembly, we were mature. We didn't have youths. Youths could have come through the affirmative action, but there were only about 5 of them. For us, we were mature, we had values, we had integrity, and the issue of corruption was not there. We never heard of that. So I think our generation, we the baby boomers, I think we are now phased out. Almost everybody's going back home. I don't know how much. Maybe if the government could take it upon himself, look out for us, some of us, we could go and talk to the communities and see what we can do. Yeah, if there was any support. But then I don't think if the government can have money for that kind of activity. That is why we are saying other stakeholders can come in, the NGOs and others, to especially concentrate on civic education. And then talk about, reduce this, the urge for money in politics. If they can change people's mindset about money, maybe things will change. But still there's hope.
Well, so as we count down to the 8th of October, when the Constitution will be 30 years, what is the most important message that you can send to a Ugandan watching you out there? Whether it's a young Ugandan, it's a woman, or an elderly Ugandan, what would be that one important message that you would like to leave them with?
Because even on 9th we are going to be 62 years, I would just want to tell the citizens of this country that this country fought for independence and fought for self-governance, and that also gave us the opportunity, we, the citizens of this country, or the governments of our country, to come up with the laws, with the supreme law like the Constitution. And that is, earlier on I said, we have had 4 constitutions. The latest was the 1995 Constitution, which is going to make 30 years on 8th October. But we want maybe to appeal, I can appeal to scholars, those who are experts in constitutionalism, to come up and start mobilizing people around the Constitution, how the supreme law works, how it can be protected. We put there the checks and balances, but it seems they were weak. They were there, but maybe they should have been stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So we look forward to celebrating 30 years of constitutionalism.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Tezira Jamwa, for your time and for your reflections over the 30 years of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. We look forward to having you again on any of our other shows. And thank you to you who is watching. Do share your thoughts. Leave us a comment in the comment section. I'm Judith Atim, and from us here at Civic Space TV, we say thank you.